What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Snelling, and welcome to the Rewatch Ryan YouTube channel or the Watch Diary podcast feed. I am very excited to be here with you today. You might have noticed I'm almost done with my trusty Trent to cold brew. That's because there was a bit of a mix-up this morning. It's almost noon. Typically, I record this podcast a little bit earlier in the morning. I woke up. I'm off work for the next 4 days. So that's Friday through Monday. That's a super long weekend. It's just how it worked out. And I have nothing planned. Nothing at all, actually. And it's kind of sad. And I'm going to expose myself a little bit. Not on. Don't worry. If you're watching on camera, that's not what I mean. I have my ringer on my phone. I usually don't because I don't want any distractions when I podcast, but I have my ringer on my phone because here in the next, couple of hours, the Safelite technician is on his way to fix my windshield. He's actually going to do a full windshield replacement because as I was driving to work the other day on a back desert road, a rock hit my windshield and left, the smash, like the impact smash, was probably the size of, a little bit bigger than a quarter. But the fractures extend, all the way over, in front of my face. It actually happened in the, very bottom left corner. So imagine, where's my finger? So imagine the impact right there if you're watching this on YouTube. But there was a crack that kind of leads all the way over to my face on the windshield. So almost like a third or a quarter, I should say, of the windshield. So it's unsafe. And I don't even feel good about taking it through a car wash. So I had to get it replaced. And I've always heard that the number for getting a windshield replaced is roughly $100. But mine is $400. And my deductible that my insurance covered is $400. So if you don't know what that means, which I don't even know what it means, but basically they just advise that you just pay for it because your insurance isn't going to cover it, I guess, if you haven't made your deductible. So I'm paying $400 today to get my windshield replaced. And I just spent $130 last week on a flat tire, which I had to replace it. I couldn't patch it. And this is all during me trying to save money for a potential, just in general, I needed to save money to get myself out of debt. But this is all when I've been sort of debating on moving back home to Kentucky. And it's not really, I don't think I've talked about it on here. It's not something that I know for sure that I'm going to do, but it's one of those things where if I'm going to do it, I need to be out of debt more so than I am now. But also, it's just a good thing in general to be out of debt because I have a lot of things piling up. So basically, at the time when I'm trying to get ahead, that's when the universe kind of hit me with, this kind of thing. Now, it could be worse. My car could be not drivable. I could not have a place to live. I could not have a job. It could definitely be worse. But I've just kind of been down this week, a little disappointed, and I don't know. The only thing I'm thinking about now, some good news, is that I just set up my tax information for my first YouTube payment. So I wish I had a check. I would love to show you a check because that'd just be a lot cooler. But yeah, I'm going to get my first paycheck or deposit from YouTube in the next month or so. I don't know how fast those payments go out, but I just completed it, and yeah, that's really fun. It's not much. It's going to be pretty much exactly $100 because that's when the payment threshold is accomplished or whatever. They don't send you anything if you make less than $100 is basically the point. So yeah, I'm going to get my first deposit from YouTube. It's going to be kind of nice. It'll help me pay a bill, and it's really cool. I feel really grateful and happy, and just thank you so much for being a part. I get a little something from the podcast feed as well. So it makes me think of you all. It makes me reflect for sure on my content creation journey, and it's been inconsistent and long. You know, we're coming on 8 years that I've been not on YouTube, but podcasting and content creation in general. And so it's kind of nice to finally get my first. Sight and Sound did get paid out, but you know, I split it with Jay, and you know, we had a Patreon at one point, and I got Schmoes No Money, very little, but I got Schmoes No Money. So it's not the first time I've been paid professionally for doing this kind of thing, but you know, rebranding this YouTube channel is Rewatch Ryan and doing exactly what I want to do and getting paid for it. That's really nice. And so it makes me think of you all. It makes me think for everybody who watches the Every Movie Evers and listens to Watch Diary. And I'm just really grateful to you all. So even though I'm like down and out, it can definitely be worse. I'm trying to count my blessings. And my blessings include you guys who watch and listen to me, and when you could listen to thousands of other people talk about the exact same shit and maybe even say the exact same shit, honestly, it just means a lot to me that you're along for the ride, and hopefully it's just upward from here. You know, I've been all over the place in terms of popularity and growth or whatever, but this is me starting anew, and just thankful. So I appreciate it for sure. A little behind the scenes. It's going to be a little confusing, maybe. Hopefully I make it make sense. At the time that I'm sitting down, I haven't watched The Gray Man. Another bit of an oopsie. I thought The Gray Man released on Netflix this week. Now, I knew that it was going to be a theatrical and a Netflix release, but I thought it was on Netflix today. So that was my plan, and then I woke up and realized that it was a premiere for the theatrical, and it's not it's not on Netflix right now. So here's the thing. At the time that I'm recording this, I have no idea if my Gray Man review is going to be inside the podcast. Now, if you're watching the video or listening to the podcast, and if it says The Gray Man in the title, then I am going to talk about it, and then I eventually saw the movie. But yeah, I'm waiting for the Safe Flight Technician, so I sat down. We're going to definitely talk Ms. Marvel and The Bear, and I don't think I talked about The Bear last week. Maybe I did, but I'm going to talk about it again. So that's this week's episode. So if The Gray Man is in the title of the video, then I got it in time, but right now, I don't know. It's 11:30. I'm waiting for my windshield to be fixed, and so I don't know if I can go to the movies. But that's just a bit of an oopsie, and there's plenty of stuff to, you know, talk about. So it's fine if The Gray Man's not included. If it's not, I'll just do a separate video for it, and you can find it on the channel later. And that's just how it goes. That wasn't confusing, right? You'll figure it out. That's the thing me and Jay always used to like. We always used to over-explain things, because that's how, like, a lot of people talk on podcasts. And then we kind of just decided that, like, people aren't that stupid to have to be, like, force-fed everything. So, I think you get what I mean. Where am I going with this? Oh, so, here's the things I can definitely talk about. So, another Marvel Disney Plus series down. Ms. Marvel has concluded, and this will have spoilers in this review. I don't always put them in there, but I'm just going to warn you that if you haven't seen Ms. Marvel, I'm just going to talk openly about the entire thing here. But Ms. Marvel is done, and I'll tell you what, right now, I'm sitting down, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, 80% average audience score. I think this is one of the better Disney Plus shows for sure. I thoroughly enjoyed this show, but I still ultimately feel the same way about Marvel and the MCU and Phase 4 and Disney Plus. Like, it's kind of very similar to Thor: Love and Thunder, how I gave it credit where I thought it deserved credit, but there's all these overarching, you know, like, universal questions that I have to ask about Phase 4, and so I don't want that to bog down the entire discussion, because there is so much to Ms. Marvel, and it deserves its own conversation, just like everything does. But again, I still am left with concerns. But ultimately, what we have here is a wonderful, innocent coming of age story about Kamala Khan. She's a fangirl of Captain Marvel. She loves the Avengers. She's like us. Aman Vellani, who plays Miss Marvel, is like us, and it's very charming. She's one of the more like charming additions to the MCU. One thing I love about my celebrities is when they're like actually open about being fans of things, but not just like in a bored way, like in a passionate way. Like Simu Liu kind of came off that way in Shang-Chi, where he talked a lot about being a fan of the MCU, but like Oscar Isaac or like Christian Bale's attitude when he's asked which MCU movie have you seen, and he says, "Oh, I saw the one with the bloke chasing the stones." It's really funny, and I really appreciate like the people out there that just like don't even think about Marvel in their everyday life, because I think that's kind of important too. But I love when you can tell that a celebrity or an actor or an actress is truly a fan of a thing and can talk about it, talk about the MCU the way that we can talk about the MCU. So that's really charming. So Aman Vellani herself, but also as Miss Marvel, is very infectious, and she's such a welcome addition to the MCU. And I think out the gate, she does have the benefit of having a Disney Plus series. I think out the gate, she made a stronger impression and a stronger case for her role in the MCU than I think Brie Larson as Captain Marvel did. Captain Marvel, a movie that hasn't really aged well, personally, but Brie Larson's a tremendous actress, and it's just kind of weird that she didn't make as much of an impression as, say, like a Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. His impression was in someone else's movie, a lot less screen time than his own movie, let alone Captain Marvel's. And the fact, I just think that we still haven't found Brie Larson's Carol Danvers yet. So for Aman Vellani and Miss Marvel to out the gate kind of like trump that, I find to be very impressive, especially as a newcomer, as an actress, and a character that I'm definitely less familiar with. I was excited to watch this show in the way that I get excited about every other show. I'm hoping that it gives me something new while also is of high quality. And I think we got that. And it showed me a lot of things that it was completely different than what I thought it would be. A young Pakistani girl focused on her family, Jersey City, and finding all of her powers. And it was definitely unique because I didn't realize how historical, how educational the show was going to be. It definitely has those elements. And it's one of those shows that like some people roll their eyes, I guess, when you say something's important, but it's actually a pretty important story. Historically, because there's just a lot of stuff going on in here with the partition and British occupied Pakistan that I wasn't really aware of, and that was a nice education. And I love that. I love the historical fiction angle that you can play on that. You can use that history to add to the lore. And from what I know, which is not a lot, but a lot of that kind of stuff was its own sort of original liberties. I don't know if a whole lot of that was taken from the comics. I might just be entirely wrong, but that was my impression based on what I saw in the publications and things. And so all of that stuff I think worked very well. The one thing I definitely didn't know is that they changed the power set a little bit and how it looked visually and, where she draws from it, I guess. So all that stuff that Kevin Feige and whoever else is showrunner, when they took their own liberties, it's not something that I was like devout to, like from the comics, because again, I don't know a whole lot. So this is the kind of character that you can, I think more than anything, take your own liberties and make something new and just use it to supplement the MCU that you've already established. And I think that's I think admirable, and it just makes sense, especially when there's a lot of concepts and things being thrown out in the MCU right now that don't really supplement the universe that they set up so far. I mean, I'm literally just getting a headache thinking about the multiverse and the TVA and the Eternals and Celestials. I mean, that kind of stuff gives me a headache now. But the fact that I felt like I could stay on board with the show when they introduce the clandestines and the other realm, I didn't think that any of that was a far out reach, and it made sense. And ultimately, it was all grounded in great character work. So let's kind of fast forward. First of all, it's episode 5, which is the time traveling episode, where Kamala goes back and essentially saves her great grandmother as she's trying to escape. I love shit like that. I really do. I love contained, like, flashback episodes, but also this, of course, involved Kamala in the present day, and she ended up saving her granddaughter and adding to that legacy. And I just love stuff like that. I love time travel stories, and I just thought it reminded me of like Watchmen too, when Damon Lindelofian kind of like contained, but like a revisiting and a recontextualizing of history and all that kind of stuff was just my jam. And in a way, I kind of wish that it was the finale. And if they had written it like the finale, I think that would have been actually incredible. Like, it would have been not just a really good Disney Plus Marvel series, but like an incredible TV series. But they didn't do that. They still have sort of a rushed, but fun, and I think well done finale here. And I loved everything kind of going on in the high school, and I just thought it was a lot of fun taking down. It does ask a lot of questions, like what's the Damage Control's role in the universe now? If we have the same guy from No Way Home, but they're kind of functioning completely different than they did in No Way Home. So you have all that kind of stuff that I feel like we can constantly... But I'm also kind of tired of asking all those questions. Like, I kind of just want to give up and let an MCU project finally just take the reins and be like, this is where we've been going. Now... That's also a criticism in and of itself, that we still don't know, but I'm also tired of asking. You know, I'm just hoping that there's going to be a big thing that comes out, whether it's Wakanda Forever or just a Kevin Feige press conference where he just connects some dots and we can finally just breathe a little bit. I've never felt more aimless than I do right now, but if we look at Ms. Marvel as a contained series as much as we can, I think it's actually really, really well done. And I think one of the other angles too is they nailed what makes her like Spider-Man while also making it not like Spider-Man. The coming of age youthfulness to it, the wide-eyed glimmer of hope that we have here, the Avenger Con angle. That's the thing about these Disney Plus series, is that they're so brief, but so much happens somehow, and it makes you like, my attention span for these shows is so brief, because it's like I'm watching episode 4 or episode 5, and we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and it feels like the episode 1 Avenger Con issue was 10 years ago. So there's something about the pacing of these shows that, like, I forget. Oh, AvengerCon was the first episode. It was literally like 3 weeks ago. And so much ground is covered, and then we get into the clandestines, and so it's like, as a movie, we'd just be so discombobulated. But that's what they still have yet to figure out about these shows. But I think one thing that I really loved, an image that stuck out to me, is actually, first of all, when they were in Pakistan, I actually bought that they were in Pakistan instead of Moon Knight, like buying that they're in like Europe or Egypt, or like, I never bought it because it's so reliant on visual effects to establish those locations. I actually felt like I was in Pakistan, whether I was or not. And that was really important. I thought it looked good ultimately. Definitely looked better than a lot of other projects. But one image that stuck out to me that I loved in the final climax of the finale is the fact that her family, her parents in particular, were sort of sidelined, were on the sidelines of her final battle. And I love that, because they were able to see her in action without any sort of narrative forming. Like, it wasn't on television, there wasn't in publications. They got to see their daughter being a hero multiple times, actually, but this one knowing that she was the hero. And I loved that. They were cheering her on, they were worried about her. And I can't remember if I've ever really seen anything like that off the top of my head. Like, of course, like, Aunt May's, like, in the big climactic battle with the Sinister Six and No Way Home. But, like, having her just, like, on the sidelines, like, worried and rooting her on, and I don't know. But it was, like, it's just really, like, nice and kind of, like, warming in a way. And I just thought that was really interesting. But anyway, the power set, I think all that kind of stuff was fun. And I'm actually really excited to see Miss Marvel again. I think that maybe the Rotten Tomatoes is a little too high, but I still think it's a really, really good show. And yeah, I'm just like really proud of this one in ways that I'm not really into a lot of the other. I love the parents, the brother. I love pretty much every aspect about it. I'm not really like in love with like Bruno or anything, but so anyway, let's talk about those final moments real quick, and then we'll head out. I again have no relationship to Miss Marvel in the comics, so, and I know that she's not a mutant in the comics, but the fact that they are introducing her as a mutant here is totally fine with me. I don't know that I quite get where we're going with it, because again, she's already beloved, and it can change for sure, but she's already beloved, so it doesn't really help steer us in the direction of how are we going to introduce mutants that are discriminated against in a world where superheroes are beloved. So it doesn't really provide any insight into that. I also just don't see her in Xavier's mansion. Like, I don't see her with the X-Men. So it's okay that she just introduces mutant kind in a way, and maybe she can kind of be a pillar for mutant kind, but it didn't really provide any insight as to where we're going with mutants. We just called her a mutant. So it's a lot of fun, but I don't think it really... We're still not quite there yet. You know, it was still just a tease, almost as effective as every other post-credit scenes. Because at the end of the day, I think what makes it fun, but also not fulfilling, is that we're still in the exact same place as we were before watching Miss Marvel. Knowing that mutants are right around the corner. We just saw Professor X, which I get. It's not the same. They brought him in from another universe. They still didn't introduce mutant kind to the MCU. Like, I understand why it's different, and I believe that it's different. But we're still in the exact same place. Like, think about it. Kevin Feige still has a lot more to say to explain what's going on. So, it was fun, but not that fulfilling. It was good to see Brie Larson. I didn't really expect a setup to Miss Marvel's, because we don't know that much about it, but it was cool. And I think Kamala being in Captain Marvel 2, or the Marvels, whatever you want to say, it definitely helps the stock and the clout of that movie, for sure. Because I was only going to get so excited. A trailer could have excited me for sure, but I was only going to get so excited for the Marvels. Based on my attachment to Carol Danvers and the Rambos, it only goes so far, but this definitely helps, and I think it's exactly what we needed to get excited. So anyway, I thought Miss Marvel was really, really well done, very thoughtful, and probably one of the best holes. It might be the best hole, because, the finale of WandaVision crashed and burned, I thought. Otherwise, an incredible series, but it might be the best whole for sure, but I don't know that it adds as much as, say, it's going to be really funny, because we know where WandaVision ultimately goes, which is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. When we see the Marvels, it's going to be fascinating if the Marvels and Miss Marvel had a better, I don't know, relationship than WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Some people might get irritated at the comparisons I make because I'm just like, oh, of course he compared Kamala to Captain Marvel. It's like, it's the obvious comparison, especially like in universe. Like I understand, but like I've talked so much about all the other shows that I don't feel like I have to like talk about. Like I didn't plan on ranking the Disney Plus shows yet. I was gonna wait until She-Hulk came out. But you know, it's just the obvious. It makes sense because it puts you exactly in my mindset when I say things like that. So I've had some time to catch up on television. I watched the show called The Bear on Hulu on FX, and it's excellent. Out of nowhere, Jay texted me, "Hey, by the way, I watched The Bear. Didn't know what it was. Looked it up. Saw our boy from Shameless, and I was like, oh, cool." It's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. The average tomato meter, average audience score is 93. I just found that out right now, by the way. I didn't know that. But Jeremy Allen White, who plays Lip from Shameless, leads this show. And most recently, yesterday actually, at work, some people asked me, hey, what shows was I watching? And The Bear was the first one and the only one that I really wanted to gush over and talk about. It's excellent. And it's very unsuspecting. First of all, it's insanely watchable. So this is a much easier sell than if I even recommend like a Marvel show. Like if I'm not going to recommend Moon Knight, I'm not going to recommend Miss Marvel first. I'm going to recommend The Bear because it's 8 roughly 30 minutes, sometimes even shorter episodes in its first season. It is such a breezy, entertaining watch. It's going to stay in my top 10, no doubt about it. I made a list the other day how many shows I have to watch. It was like probably in the 20s and 30s how many shows that I have to watch. But I'm so glad that I watched The Bear. So take this recommendation seriously. If you need a show and you feel overwhelmed with all the shows you have to catch up on, knock The Bear out. Because I did it you could definitely do it in a day. I did it in 2 days because I'm not a crazy person. So if you want to know what it's about, it's like a workplace Shameless almost. The tone of it is very similar to Shameless. It takes place in Chicago. He plays Jeremy Allen White. He doesn't play. Both of his characters are tough, and stressed out. They're not really that similar, but if you watch Shameless, you feel at home. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like a workplace focused Shameless, but it also has so many other attractive qualities to it that make it so watchable. I believe that Hiro Murai is involved, who is definitely a part of Atlanta and a whole bunch of other FX properties and shows. But Jeremy Allen White plays this 5-star chef who was handed his brother's restaurant after his sudden death. And this show exists, but it doesn't focus on it all. I think it's actually mentioned only once the entire show. This does live in a COVID world, a post-COVID world, where they're trying to get the business back up and running post-COVID and after the sudden death of his brother, who's played by John Bernthal, of all people. So basically what he has to deal with is grief. He has to deal with being in over his head while also feeling like he's too good to be there. Because again, he's a 5-star chef. He's classically trained. He worked in one of the highest profile restaurants in the entire world. They kind of dive into that a little bit. They show a few flashbacks. He was heavily abused by his instructor, played by Joel McHale. They give us a little bit of that. But it's definitely a workplace show because it deals with all the different personalities. It's Shameless meets Waiting, almost, if it existed during COVID. But it deals with all the personalities and deals with things that I'm familiar with, working in customer service. You know, you have all the old school people that work there, and they have these new, young, aspirational people coming in to wanting to change things and fix the business, and they want the old ways. It's very old way versus new way. It's just a very, very rich but fresh and quick, and it's just so insanely watchable. It really is. So he deals with all of his family issues while also just being randomly funny. And it kind of reminded me of Atlanta in that way. Atlanta has this like fantastical humor a lot of the time that's really laugh out loud and sporadic. But The Bear's not fantastical in that way, but it does randomly just make you laugh when you least expect it. There's another young actress who goes toe to toe with Jeremy Allen White. I don't want to mispronounce her name, but I believe it's Ayo Edebiri. She plays Sydney. I've never seen her in anything before, but she is wonderful. She plays a new hire that is also an aspirational cook. She's a writer or she played a writer. Wait, what? She's in What We Do in the Shadows somehow, either as a writer or she played a writer. She's also been in Big Mouth, and yeah, so she's done very few things, but this is the first thing I've seen her in, and she did a great job. And I'm excited to see what else she does. She does a really good job. Anyway, it's a very interesting cast all around. A bunch of new people. They feel like real people, because I'm not really familiar with any of them as actors beyond the show. So it feels insanely real in that way. So again, it's 8 episodes, average 30 minutes. You're in and out. It's a quick watch, but it's one of the best shows that I've seen in a while, actually. Like, this just has me really, really excited. The 5th episode is essentially just a short film, and it's, if I remember correctly, entirely continuous shot. Now, I don't know if it's actually continuous shot, but it's shot where the camera is just moving around the set the entire time. There's no cuts. It's in real time, so I believe it's a 26-minute episode. It takes place over 26 minutes before they open the restaurant, before they open for takeout and to-go orders. And it's so stress-inducing, and I have to believe that it's real. I mean, I can relate to it in some ways, but I have to believe that's exactly how it is. And it's just incredible. Like, the filmmaking is incredible. So, again, watch The Bear. The entire season right now is on FX on Hulu, and I think it's probably my favorite show of the year so far. I have not watched a lot of television this year. It's mostly just like the Disney Plus stuff that I feel like I have to watch. I'm in the middle of watching Severance, but right now The Bear is maybe it's not my favorite show, but it's easily the greatest recommendation I can make. So please check it out, The Bear. I promise you will not be disappointed. All right, here we are, reviewing The Gray Man. As you might have noticed, the coloring might be a little bit different. My shirt is different. My cold brew is different. That's because it is Saturday, and I just saw a matinee of The Gray Man. Like a dum-dum, I didn't realize that it was coming out in theaters first before Netflix. So this whole time I thought I was going to be able to watch it at home. I was wrong, so I had to wait another day to go see it because I had all kinds of stuff going on. But it was a nice time. You know, I got to see it for free. I used a Cinemark reward, so that was cool. Look, this movie is right up my alley. I love spy, espionage, thrillers with my favorite Hollywood movie stars. Big fan of Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, and Ana de Armas. I might be the biggest fan of her out of the three, actually. But just sign me up for this. You know, as soon as they announced it, I was excited for Netflix. It was it was a high priority for me when it came to Netflix originals. You get the Russo brothers. They said that they wanted to adapt this book and make it into a universe, and sign me up. You know, with the success of John Wick, with the success of Mission Impossible, I missed my beloved Bourne series when it was good. I'm all about it. This is just my kind of thing. So I was so down to see this movie. With that said, I couldn't ignore the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, which at the time I believe it's at a 53. And usually, I guess for whatever reason, the first thing I always react to when I do my reviews is the Rotten Tomatoes score. But I do think that, and it's not the end all be all, and I understand how Rotten Tomatoes works, but it's just a good starting point, I guess. Sorry. At the time that I'm recording this, it's at a 52%. I just think it's a little slightly hyperbolic, especially when you go in and look at some of these reviews. The rotten ones make it sound like it's like a sin against humanity, that it's trying so hard to be a John Wick movie. I don't even think that. I mean, I just think the DNA of the movie, the spy espionage thriller, it's not trying to be John Wick per se, but you obviously can connect it to John Wick. It's just being the type of movie that it is, if that makes sense. So, I think that's kind of a stretch. I do say it's John Wick meets Bourne, and then a diet version of that. Because if Bourne is like the thinking man spy thriller, if John Wick is just, how would I describe John Wick? It's certainly exciting, but I still call John Wick mindless. As much as I love John Wick, why'd I say it like that? As much as I love John Wick, it really is just a very stoic guy who's seeking revenge on a dog, and it's very straightforward. The action sequences are fun and imaginative, but they vary in degrees of entertainment and quality, so I don't really know what it means to be a diet John Wick, maybe. Like I said, it's just in this genre, and it's perfectly acceptable and fun, and that really, really just comes down to how watchable this cast is. Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, and Ana de Armas have really been... Well, actually, more so Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, conveniently in Knives Out, but they've been having a ton of fun over the last few years, venturing out into different things. And Ryan Gosling's kind of been MIA, so I was excited to see him come back for this. And I love all the connective tissues, because I love Gosling and Anna together in Blade Runner 2049 for sure, and I love Chris Evans and Anna in Knives Out. So to bring all these two together, give Chris Evans a mustache, bring the Russos back, and give them some familiar actors, some more familiar actors to play with, it just seemed right and it made sense, but also safe. And the movie's safe in the way that it never really does anything beyond its genre, and it never satisfies me quite the way that they would and could when they're working with Marvel. So this never reaches like Winter Soldier quality for me, while also being very watchable and entertaining. It's a movie that I love because I like the genre, but it's ultimately probably not lasting. I do think the action sequences were a lot of fun. They were over the top amazing, but they were fun to watch and definitely entertaining as well. I think one of the biggest takeaways, though, because, Gosling and Evans and Anna, they're reliable, but one actress I didn't know who would be in this movie, Julia Butters. Now, Julia Butters came out of nowhere in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and played the very young actress opposite of Leonardo DiCaprio in a couple of scenes, and she did a great job. The craziest, most ironic thing, completely unrelated, last night I got drunk at my house and was just vibing. Even though I don't really like the movie, I was in a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood mood. So last night, not realizing Julia Butters was in The Gray Man, I put on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and just drank and chilled and ate a frozen pizza. And I saw her again today, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe it's Julia Butters back-to-back in 2 movies. She crushes it in this film. Like, I couldn't believe, it's not like she's playing like this, like, amazing character, but the emotion that she's able to display, I'm like, oh, holy shit, this is going to be a force. As a child actress, she's a wonderful child actress, and she crushes it in this movie, too. The movie's fun. It doesn't blow your mind. It's also harmless. You got random appearances from Alfre Woodard and Jessica Henwick. I expected a lot more from her. I want to see her blow my mind, because I know she's a great actress, but she can only go so far with Iron Fist. She got cut out of the Star Wars. I want to see Jessica Henwick actually do something, and it's not her fault. I wish she had more of a role. And look, I tell you what, the guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but the guy from Bridgerton, this was the first time I've ever seen him in anything, and he did a pretty good job, just, playing a guy. Reg John Page, I guess is how you pronounce it. I mean, you have all the ingredients here, great ingredients that are serviceable, but ultimately just don't. They do set up a sequel. I will watch the sequel. I'll probably watch any installment in this universe, no matter what they do. I'm very, very curious to see how the Netflix audience in particular responds to this movie, and I would like to keep track of this box office because this is the biggest movie with the biggest stars, the highest profiles, directors, that combination in general, and the fact that this movie is released in theaters a week out. I mean, it's just an interesting experiment that I can't wait to watch and discuss as the year goes on. So with that said, there were random people in the theater. It wasn't like it was slamming, but there were plenty of people. I thought the theater was going to be dead because when I bought my tickets online, I was the first and only seat, and that was last night. But yeah, there were a few people in every row, so it's not like it was empty on a Saturday at 1:30. So I'm very curious to see what business this does based on its clout and its release schedule. So that's one of the most fascinating things. It was great to see Ryan Gosling again, for sure. And Chris Evans just having an amazing time. You know, Chris Evans fans will eat it up. Ana de Armas continues to kick ass. You know, she stole the show in No Time to Die with the little screen time that she had, but she's crushing it. And she's going to end up having a pretty good year. Deepwater wasn't great, but insanely watchable. And we also have Blonde, her playing Marilyn Monroe later this year. So I'm just... oh, and also there's a Ken doll reference towards Ryan Gosling in this movie, and obviously all the Ken doll stuff coming on. So it was exciting mostly because of the actors in it. I mean, honestly, all these actors being in this type of movie was good enough, but that's as far as it goes. So with that said, that's all I got. You can follow my reactions to every new release on TikTok. Make sure you just follow me at Rewatch Ryan. I also post on Instagram Reels. And all right, so that's it for this week's episode of The Watch Diary. Sorry it's a little bit more disjointed than usual. Different days, different recordings, but it's all good. I'm going to shut this one down here. Sorry for the delay. On Monday, I'm officially releasing, finally, my Every Movie Ever, ranking every movie I watched from January to June. That's going to be a separate episode. I felt like if I combine it, then it'd be too long because we're pushing 45 minutes here. The ranking is 50 minutes, so it's going to be separate. So everything that you see here comes out on Sunday, and then Monday I'll put out that Every Movie Ever, and then we have Nope to look forward to. I'm so stoked for it. Get excited. There will definitely be a Jordan Peele ranking, Every Movie Ever. After that, that's an easy one. Maybe I'll do a Russo Brothers one too, because I still haven't seen Cherry. If I see Cherry, then I'll be able to do a Russo Brothers Every Movie Ever as well. But I just didn't have it prepped in time. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, Rewatch Ryan. That's it.